In this exercise, we're going to build a list class to demonstrate how to do class template programming by creating a generic list class that can be used with multiple types. So the first thing we need to do is include the vector header because we're going to be using a vector to store data for our class. We start out with the template type name T, which I've already typed in, followed by the name of our class, list. Our only private field is going to be the vector that we're going to store data. And of course we want that to be generic because we want to change the type based on the type of items we want to store in the list. So we put the T in brackets after the keyword vector, and then we're going to call our vector data store. Our public section will first include a default constructor with no body, an add method, and again, because the items we're going to add will be based on the data type of the list, we use T for the placeholder for the data type of the item to be added. And then here we'll use the pushback function of the vector class to add an item to the list. And then our last function will be a display function. There won't be anything generic about it, excuse the pun, so we'll just go ahead and write out the code very quickly. It's a typical loop through a vector code. And then another close bracket, and then a final close curly brace to close the class. Now we're ready to test the class, so we'll start out first. We'll write a grocery list. So notice I use string to tell the compiler that I'm going to be adding string data to the list. So we'll start out with milk, eggs, bread. Then we want to display it. Let's go ahead and build and run the program so far. We're going to write another list in just a minute. So there are 3 items, milk, eggs, and bread. Let's put a space here, and then let's begin another list. Our list is going to be grades that are integer type, so we're going to put keyword int in brackets after the class name list. And we'll add some grades to the list. And display the grades. Build and run the program again. And there are grades along with the grocery list from previous. So there's much more we could do to the list class, but to demonstrate the generic nature of the class, all I needed to show is how to add items in. And to do that, I have to create a template at the beginning, use the template placeholder, the type placeholder, wherever I reference a data type, so for the vector declaration and as the data type for the parameter for add, and then everything else works normally. Now, of course, if I had any other functions that required a data type, then I would have to use T if that data type refers to the item that's in the list. So that wraps up this exercise, and that wraps up this chapter on generic programming.